Hello gamers, I'm Ank, and this video is part of a series of guides for bosses in Sword Trial and or Heroes Realm. Basically, the mechanics for 5-man dungeons and 10-man raids in Where Winds Meet. I have recently started grinding the Promise Keeper title, so I have been playing with randoms, and I have noticed that the vast majority of people do not know the mechanics in this type of content, which at the very least results in a worse experience for everyone and even turns people off from this kind of content. If this is not the first video from the series you are watching, you can use the timestamps provided to skip this section with general advice, as it will repeat throughout this series. Otherwise, I have a few things to say. Because of how these bosses look and their names, sadly a lot of people assume they have the same mechanics as in solo or co-op version they probably fought against, and this is not the case. While they share design elements, like some basic skills, a lot of other mechanics are different. These mechanics are designed for multiplayer and often require cooperation of multiple players. Before we talk about the boss of this video, I have to give you a few pieces of general advice that apply for all these bosses. First and foremost, regardless of the role you play, do not ignore Mystic Arts. These are very impactful and they are only limited by vitality, which is the resource consumed to cast them. It's important not to sit at max vitality, as this will result in a loss of performance for the whole team. If you can't be bothered to look into specific Mystic Arts, just equip Dragon's Breath and spam it on cooldown, especially during mechanics that requires fast clearing or high DPS. The second piece of advice is about highlighted skills. Some skills will be highlighted with red or yellow. All red abilities can be parried, which will completely negate their damage and contribute to breaking the boss's chi bar, which once depleted will stun the boss and make the encounter considerably shorter, as bosses take increased damage when they are stunned and do not cast skills. Mechanics can even be skipped by doing this at the right time. Everyone, regardless of role, can parry those attacks. Utilizing this mechanic is how top teams get those amazing clear times. As for the yellow abilities, they can only be dodged, they cannot be parried, and they usually do substantial damage. Speaking of boss skills, before any boss casts a skill, the skill name will be displayed in the middle of the screen, giving you a few moments to prepare for it and act accordingly. Similar to highlighted abilities, the ones with the text in red can be parried, while the ones with the yellow text are inevitable unless the boss is stunned at the perfect time. If they are damaging abilities, they can only be avoided. Under the ability's name, there will usually be a short description telling you how to react to these abilities. However, these descriptions are focused on safety and not efficiency, so please keep that in mind. For example, under most red abilities, the game will advise avoiding them, such as moving away from your team if targeted, and that is all good and well, and it is how you should play. However, when playing with a pre-made experienced group, people can group up and parry those red skills to break the boss faster. With all that out of the way, let's talk about Murong Yuan. This boss will have both a raid version and a dungeon version. When I talk about her skills, I will make sure to mention the difference if there are any, but in general most skills work the same with very small differences. This is the boss that actually made me decide to start this series, because I have seen so many people just avoid it, and when they don't avoid it, they don't know what to do. But even so, I believe this boss is not very hard, it's just that people need to know what the mechanics do. The theme of this fight is explosive barrels, and your focus should be on detonating this in a controlled manner. Various boss abilities will spawn these barrels. When these barrels are close to each other, they will highlight in red. If any of the barrels are detonated while highlighted in red, it will trigger a chain explosion that detonates all the barrels that are connected to the one that was detonated initially, which will do massive AoE damage to the whole group. 3 or 4 barrels will result in a wipe, while 2 chained barrels will usually do massive damage, so to do these mechanics properly, the barrels can be picked up and moved with the interact key. Everyone is responsible for doing this with the exception of the tank, and this is because the tank will drop the barrel he is carrying if the boss hits them. Most people that I have seen are aware that the barrels need to be moved, so they are not chained and even attempt to do it. The problem that arises most often is that a lot of people are not aware that they are meant to try and detonate as many barrels as possible when they are not chained. The easiest way to do this is by using the very skills that spawn them, basically most yellow highlighted skills that the boss casts. If people do not detonate barrels when they have the opportunity to do so, the play area will quickly get filled with barrels, and sooner or later they will overwhelm you and your party and will most likely result in a wipe, which is what often happens. To reiterate, barrels exploding without being chained when they are not highlighted in red is good. Barrels exploding while they are being highlighted in red is bad. Use yellow highlighted skills to detonate barrels. Anyway, now that we have covered the main mechanic of this boss, let's go over the abilities themselves and see how we navigate them. Her basic attack patterns are very similar to her co-op or solo version, and there are 3 notable skills here that she will always cast on the tank: Coward, Army Breaker, and Cherry Blossom Dance. These are multi-hit skills, red highlighted abilities. They simply have to be parried, and it is advised for other party members, if they are not busy with something else, to parry these abilities as well, because doing so will reduce the boss's ki bar. In the dungeon version of this, she will not cast Cherry Blossom Dance, just the other 2. The next ability is Fireball. She will select 3 targets and they will be marked with 3 yellow highlighted abilities. When these circles fill up, the bird that is flying around will cast fireballs at those targets. In the 5-man sword trial version, before the bird throws the fireball at those targets, she will drop barrels on them. So in both versions of the fight, it is advised to move away from your team. In the 5-man version, it is advised to use the yellow circles to destroy those barrels that drop on your location. The next ability is Eagle Strike. The boss will select a random barrel on the field, and after a delay, the barrel will be detonated. This is why it is important for barrels not to be connected anywhere on the map. If you have been doing a good job in clearing barrels and there are no barrels available for this ability to target, it will select a random player. If this happens, it's not a big deal, it doesn't do much damage, just something to be aware of. From time to time, usually at inconvenient times, she will cast Summon Firebird. A summoned bird will appear somewhere on the field with a yellow highlighted circle filling up. 2 barrels will also spawn next to the Firebird. The Firebird needs to die before the yellow highlighted ability fills up. It's advised that everyone contributes to killing the Firebird. Even healers should use mystic skills to do damage to it. If this bird is not killed in time, the party will take massive damage and could result in death or even wipes. Of course, at the same time you are being targeted by the Fireball or Eagle Strike, you have to be careful to move away before the impact and not detonate those barrels that spawn. Another ability that she will cast is Frontal Fire Lines. This will summon a Firebird with 1 or 3 lines attacks that fill up. The number of lines depends on the level of the challenge. There will also be 2 or 3 barrels that spawn under this bird. They need to be moved towards the end of the line. Do so while making sure the barrels are not connected. If this cannot be done because the bird is in an awkward spot, just move 2 of the 3 barrels away. A neat trick is that after this attack is complete, for around 5 seconds the ground will be on fire. Any barrel can be safely detonated in this fire zone. So for example, if the position was awkward and you didn't have the option to move the barrels towards the end of the lines, you can afterwards move them inside this fire zone. But do be careful, because this fire zone does damage to you as well. The next ability is a massive AoE ability called Sea of Fire. The whole play area, with the exception of the right side of the field, will be highlighted in yellow. And after a few seconds, a number of barrels will spawn. Make sure that the barrels are not connected and retreat to the right side of the field before this ability is cast. You have about 10 seconds. The next ability will be Severance. She and the tank will be moved to the middle of the area. She will gain a shield that must be destroyed before the timer runs out. Both the timer and the shield will be displayed on her health bar. While she is casting this ability, she will continue to deal damage to the tank. If the shield is not destroyed in time, or if the tank dies during this mechanic, the boss will wipe the party. I should also make you aware that she has the bad habit of spawning a firebird during this mechanic. The shield takes priority over the firebird, as not doing the shield is an instant wipe, while the firebird exploding will do massive damage, but it's not an instant wipe. And realistically, you will have plenty of time to do both if everyone is contributing. The last ability is Blazing Edge. She will apply fire to her sword. From that moment on, for the duration of the fight, all her attacks will detonate any barrel they hit. This means that the tank can move her around and detonate lone barrels, while also being mindful of his health points, as she will do more damage than normal. After she casts this ability, the tank can no longer participate in the other mechanics such as summon Firebird, because doing so will explode those barrels that spawn. That being said, Blazing Edge is usually cast towards the end of the encounter, so you don't have to deal with the ability for too long. Most of the time, if everyone in the group is contributing their share to the fight, and you properly do the mechanics, you might not even see this ability. Well, that's it for the mechanics. However, currently, as I am making this video, things don't work quite properly. It can still be completed, but it's less than ideal, so I thought I will include a little bit of a description on what those bugs are and how they affect things, so it doesn't take you by surprise. Keep in mind, if you're watching this at a later date, these bugs will probably be fixed. First of all, a lot of the abilities cast will not be displayed on the screen, like they should normally be, such as Fireball, Eagle Strike and Frontal Fire Lines. You will be able to tell which ability is being cast if you pay attention, especially to sound cues, but it's still annoying if one of these abilities end up being cast behind your field of vision. There's one more bug, and this is a fairly frustrating one, as it makes doing the achievements a bit harder. Sea of Fire doesn't explode the barrels in the area hit by the Firebird's attacks. It only destroys barrel very close to the bottom left side, where the fire ground is in this screenshot. It appears that when this ability is cast, instead of triggering the Sea of Fire attack that matches the animation, this mechanic triggers a version of the Frontal Fire Lines near the left side of the field. Until this is fixed, that is where you want to place the barrels if you want them destroyed during the Sea of Fire, especially if you are looking to do achievements. Anyway, if you do the rest of the mechanics properly and detonate fire barrels as you should, these bugs don't matter much. That's it for the mechanics. Good luck with the fight. As in the other videos in this series, I will display on the screen the challenges, and now that you know the mechanics, you should understand what you have to do for them. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, comment and subscribe or don't. See you in the next one, gamers.